Well, next today, China says the UN's latest report on human rights abuses in the Xinjiang province is orchestrated. Beijing says it is a farce produced by the United States along with Western nations, and it lacks in facts.
The assessment is a patchwork of false information that serves as political tools for the US and other Western countries to strategically use Xinjiang to contain China. The UN Human Rights Office made up the assessment based on the political scheme of some foreign anti-China forces. It violates the obligations of the UN Human Rights Office and its principles of universality, objectivity, non-selectivity and non-politicization. It again shows that the UN Human Rights Office has been reduced to an enforcer and accomplice of the US and other Western countries in forcing the developing countries.
On Wednesday, the outgoing UNHCR chief, Michelle Bachelet, released the much-awaited report into China's alleged abuses in Xinjiang, accusing China of serious human rights violations there.
The UN says China may be guilty of crimes against humanity in its treatment of Uyghur Muslims. Michelle Bachelet, the UN's outgoing human rights chief, made the claim in a long-delayed report released on Wednesday. In May, Bachelet visited Xinjiang in China's northwest, which is home to around 10 million Uyghurs, a mainly Muslim ethnic minority. The lengthy report said, quote, serious human rights violations have been committed in the province. It says allegations of arbitrary detention and forced medical treatment of Uyghurs are all credible. The UN is calling on Beijing to immediately release all those detained in training centres, prisons or detention facilities. Rights groups have accused Beijing of abuses against Uyghurs that include the mass use of forced labour in internment camps. The United States has accused China of genocide. China has vigorously denied the allegations and urged the UN not to release the report. Within hours of the report's release, it branded it a farce planned by the US, Western nations and anti-China forces. Bachelet herself has come under fire for being too soft on China. She released the report only minutes before her 4-year term ended on Wednesday. She now plans to retire in Chile.
Well, for more on this, we're joined by Adrian Zentz. He's a fellow at the China Studies at the Victims of Communism Memorial Foundation. He's live in Minnesota for more on this story. Adrian, thanks very much for joining us. First up, I wanted to get your reaction to this long-awaited report. Is it what you expected?
Expectations had been quite low after Michelle Bachelet's disastrous visit to Xinjiang, really providing photo opportunities for Beijing's propaganda. And then all the delay and even an uncertainty, would it even get published by the time she left office? So everybody's expectations were quite low. And based on that low level, we can say we are basically more or less pleased by the report, especially the conclusions, statements about that Beijing's actions in the region may amount to crimes against humanity. That's very strong. And it does say that serious human rights violations were committed. The report, of course, does have a number of significant weaknesses and shortcomings. Some sections are very inconclusive and insufficient, I think, especially on birth prevention and forced labor.
And what comes next? As you mentioned, there are some very serious accusations in this report. Could it actually lead to any changes, though, within China?
It's going to put China under a lot more pressure. I mean, Beijing was given a copy of this report a while ago, and Beijing really tried everything to prevent its release, its publication. And I think now we know why. Even though the report is not perfect, it does present a very major headache for the Chinese government. So diplomatically, I think Beijing will be under a great deal more pressure, I would hope. And this could lead to adjustments that they make in the region, at least trying to portray a better picture. It may lead to improvements for the Uyghurs. That's, of course, hard to predict.
Adrian Zentz, thank you very much for your time this morning on this story.
Thank you.